We're here. We're
Yes, we
back.
are. Yes, we are. Hello, hello. NFL
You
Draft
know,
Day. You're checking us out. Hopefully, I upload this right when it needs to be uploaded, right before the draft. It's
yeah,
draft day. It's the NFL draft. I love drafts. You know, WWE's doing their own draft. Cannot do enough drafts. Just drafts all around. Everyone gets drafts.
I did
Every,
not know the WWE had a draft.
I didn't know either.
Do they draft chairs that they use to each other with?
Strangely enough, I've never seen it, so I'll have to report back. But I think it has to like they're drafting wrestlers who just like occasionally show up on like Fridays or Mondays, like drafting them more consistently, I guess. So it's not like they're taking necessarily from a different league. I don't know. I'm speculating here. But folks, that's not the draft that matters. And we were just discussing because I'm doing something different today. I'm doing something different. Nick pointed out, but we have the draft. Espen is hosting the draft, and it's owned by Disney. I wanted to be neutral because everybody wins in this draft. Everyone wins. So I'm rocking a little Mickey Mouse polo. And you had a question for me, Nick. You wanted to know something about this. You pointed something out. What was it?
I asked if it was for tennis or for golf.
Mm-hmm.
They
Oh,
said,
yeah. Yeah, and then I subsequently said that I have my own stereotypes about golf. I do not golf. I do not tennis. There's a country club not too far away from where I live, and apparently, Nick, millennials are doing that. Like we're living near country clubs. Is that what the statement you're trying to say?
yeah. So you get your organized activities, your golf, your tennis, your pickleball. Do you pickle? Do you pickle that
Anything
ball?
that's mainstream I do not do. That I do not. I just don't. I don't pickleball. I had my brother-in-law and sister-in-law pickled, and they were like, "You should pickleball too." I consistent because as much as millennials are I guess veering towards those things, part of me is still that emo millennial that is like anti all this bullshit. Like I just like I and what's worse is in my neighborhood, even though I know and not everyone golfs, there's a lot of golf carts. And so the pressure is on for me to purchase a golf cart just so that I could drive to like my brother-in-law's house or or pick up my daughter at school. Her daughter, my daughter, there's a lot of parents who come in with their golf carts.
Hmm.
Now I feel the pressure to get one and I refuse, like I refuse to get a minivan. I just part of that millennial emo-ness in me is like, no, no.
Mainstream. You sound like
Yeah.
like a hipster. I feel like the
Yeah.
overlap is notable. The hipsters are always like, I enjoyed that before it was cool, or that's so mainstream. I'll never buy a golf cart. Although that sounds absolutely fantastic to me.
It
Little
does.
golf cart, drive around town. That'd be nice.
It is, especially to pick up my daughter from
Yeah,
school. It will
yeah.
be good.
Pick up here from Whole Foods for me. Different different goals.
Yeah,
But the
Publix
golf
is
cart would be
close
nice.
enough. Yeah, Publix is close enough. I could golf cart to Publix. Like we have one like just in our neighborhood without any big main streets. Actually, a really nice place now that I think about all the ins and outs of it. So I guess I
It
should
would
take
be
advantage of
cheap.
the country club.
I mean, you're already like peak Floridian, right? Not in like the stereotypical sense. This would have you reach stereotypical Floridian, I think. Take your
It's
golf cart to Publix.
golf cart to Publix. You know, I don't know. I want to sort of counter argument that because I do think you see that a lot in Florida. So I can't deny that there is some sort of stereotype there with golf carts in Florida. Um, but growing up in Central Florida, like in Orlando, downtown Orlando, very hipster, very trendy, because there's so much corporatization like down south, like just a little south of Orlando with Disney and Universal, that like you go to downtown Orlando in that area, it has to be the opposite, right? So there's no corporate restaurants, there's nothing because you want to keep it separate from everything you could just see, get if with a 15-20 minute drive.
Right.
Um, and so part of me always judge that part of Florida, like I did more like going down the river, canoeing. There's this place called Wekiva Springs growing up. Like that was a pretty consistent spot, and just the bar hopping in Orlando was just always fantastic. It's a mid-sized little town city, really, but it has everything that you would want. Um, Pretty good community, pretty good concert halls. So I didn't grow up that way, but now I'm in South Florida, and it's like people are like they can't wait. They're not waiting to like go completely bald. They're not waiting for all the grays to show up. They're like, yes, sign me up for this, the village's lifestyle, and I as a I was raised here for most of my life. I came here when I was 3 to Florida. I still don't get it. I still don't get it. I
You're
don't,
not rocking your newbies, mowing your lawn. Does anybody have to mow their lawn in Florida, or is that all taken care of by the heat, humidity, and
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say because it's most people get their lawn done. I feel everyone in my neighborhood gets their lawn done.
you
Um,
never know what's gonna come out of my mouth next. You're like, well, if
yeah,
he's voting, like, is that taken care of by some
we're getting
or
political. We're getting
undocumented immigrant?
political. We're not getting political.
No.
Um, no, someone does my lawn for me because the time you can't you can look at costs, but there's something about time. And my brother-in-law, he does his lawn, but he does it because he knows that he's not going to go to the gym, so it's his like his attempt at staying physical and being, and it works. I think if it works, if like that's what you're going to do, and you're going to realize like this is awesome, this is where I'm going to break a sweat, I'm not going to run, I'm not going to do any
Mhm.
gym stuff, this is going to be, so he has to take in that approach. um but I do the other thing, I do the gym, I do the running, I do the other stuff. So having to be getting able to buy your time is just really impactful. And I know it stands from a privileged standpoint, but it's also it hasn't been more accessible. Like it's $70 a month for someone to mow my lawn and take care of my lawn.
Mhm.
Like you think about how long it would take me to mow the lawn, it would be almost like it'll be a couple hours at least. And it's not because I have a big lawn, but it's because I have to take my time. It's not something I do every day to perfect it. I wouldn't have the big machine, the car. We're in the
Mhm.
weeds here. We're in the weeds. I don't know where this conversation's going. It's draft day and we're talking about lawns.
We're
What
talking
do
about your
you
favorite ways to take care of your lawn. I love weed whacking. So relaxing.
do? You do it yourself? You do your outdoor stuff? Do you
No, there's no outdoor to take care of, which is sort of what I was getting at, poorly worded by saying this is the heat and humidity. Like, of course, you have a lawn, you have a house. It's not anything I have to think about. But back home in Pennsylvania, we had a large lawn, and there's a lot of hills, so it's a huge slope. So um, definitely don't have fond memories of taking care of the lawn.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah, and I grew up doing the same thing, doing a lot of lawn work. So I guess I was just like, I don't like it. If I can have
Hmm.
the time back, I'd rather have the time back. But it's draft day, Nick. It's draft day. We got lots to talk about. What do you want to talk about today? Hey, sorry. Well, I already said sorry, right? Because the last podcast we did talk about Manchester City losing the Real.
Hmm.
We did. So we don't have to bring that up. We can
Yeah.
just go straight into this round one.
Yeah.
Round one.
Yeah.
A lot
Let's
of
go
hype.
for it.
A lot of hype on quarterbacks.
There is. You think Caleb Williams 1-1? That's sealed done deal.
So I think he is going number one.
Hmm.
I do think that. But I gotta be honest with you, do I think he's gonna be lights out? I don't. He kind of reminds me a little bit, and this is gonna be crazy for a lot of people, but just thinking of his height, his build, maybe he comes in the league, and this would be a win for Chicago. But to think of Seattle drafted Russell Wilson 4th round. But I get
Hmm.
a little Russell Wilson with Caleb as far as what are the question marks. You know, and I hear the conversation, I feel like it's a lot of similarities on those question marks,
Mhm.
but there was a lot less pressure for Russell Wilson coming in at the fourth round. Um, and then coming in winning Super Bowl. It was the fourth round, right? You're looking at me like it was maybe the third round. I think
No, no, it was later. I don't know if it was exactly the fourth round, but
so. It was
that's
late.
low draft capital for a quarterback.
Yeah, and then even Justin Fields. What up? Not Justin Fields. Sorry. Jalen Hurts at the second round.
Hmm.
I have a feeling, Nick, that these teams are going to pick one, two, three quarterbacks, and the best quarterback in this draft might be drafted later on.
Yeah, like your Brock Purdy's, for example,
Hmm.
not that much pressure. It has to be an immense amount of pressure, right? And in the past couple of years, the only quarterback that I think has really excelled through that pressure has been CJ Stroud. But that was still like not one that you expected because he was inheriting a Texans franchise that didn't think was going to compete, new head coach.
Yeah.
So all the things stacked up seemed like maybe he had that underdog mentality going into it. And I guess that's a large part of it, right? Who has got the chip on their shoulder and outperforms the expectations they have of them. Caleb Williams would be hard to, it really feels like it would be hard for him to outperform those expectations placed on him in that situation that he's entering into.
It's a storied franchise, right? That hasn't had winning seasons, it feels like, in forever. I can't remember the last time the Chicago Bears were relevant. The Bears. But, you know, I think there's a lot to be said about pressure. You know, it's really hard. Even CJ Stroud didn't have as much pressure because he was one of the later picks. He wasn't the first quarterback taken, right? Or was he the first? He wasn't the first overall. Was he the first overall?
Which, say
CJ
again?
CJ Stroud wasn't the first overall, right?
No, he was two, or well, the first overall was Bryce Young that year to the Panthers. And Stroud was, we have to go back in the history
It
books to
does.
figure that
It
out.
does. He was a later pick, so I feel like there was also very little expectations, even though he was a high draft pick, because to your point, the Houston Texans were such a little bit of a wreck of a franchise. No
Yeah.
one had expectations. It wasn't like the Houston Texans fans were like, "We're expecting to go to the playoffs this first season." And so I think there's something to be said about like if you do start a rookie quarterback, if you can make that situation be not as high stakes, chances are greater for future success. And then vice versa, what I love, my personal feeling on the best environment is similar to Brock, is like if you can have a veteran quarterback ahead of your like not just a suitable, I mean a good. So I'm like good veteran quarterback. So I think the LA Rams, for instance, having Matthew Stafford, that is a good environment for any quarterback to come in, you know, and learn the ropes. Aaron Rodgers, I know he didn't want to mentor Jordan Love, but clearly that was a beneficial experience for Jordan Love, as was Aaron Rodgers' experience with Brett Favre.
Brett
So
Favre,
Brett Favre.
I couldn't agree more, 100%. However, I guess that is not a situation that any of the early drafted quarterbacks, to your point, they're not going to get that experienced guy ahead of them on the roster to kind of teach them the way of things. Each of the teams, uh, kind of leading off, looking at quarterback, have like either completely vacated that position, such as the Bears, such as the Commanders, or um, even the Patriots too, as they've dealt Mac Jones away. So
Mhm.
yeah, we could see like a lot of the QBs fall off the board early on, and it could leave a team like, I think since the Chargers were so bad last year, they could get a sneaky good pick at the 5 spot, which is maybe the pick that I'm most excited to see take place in that early part of the round.
Yeah, you know, some estimates have them taking an offensive tackle JC Lathan from Alabama. But to your point, to put a topic on this, because I know and I love Will Kane. Shout out Will Kane. He developed this strategy a long time ago, and I heard it and I was like, that's a really interesting thought, which is if you don't have a good quarterback, you keep drafting until you get a good quarterback. You
Mhm.
keep taking a quarterback until you have the quarterback. But if you don't have the quarter, you keep drafting. But if you do have the quarterback, then you can start prioritizing other things, but kind of always focus on the quarterback position if that is a weak point.
Right.
I would be shocked, Nick, if those three, and I think if the New England Patriots get May, they get the best quarterback projected in the draft. I think Caleb Williams is number one because of all his accolades, right? You can't pass up. It's almost like with Johnny Football, even though he wasn't drafted first overall, but Baker Mayfield was.
Yeah.
Also the Bengals. What's the quarterback of the Bengals?
Joe
Is
Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Burrow. Sorry, I just love that. Burrow. Uh,
Joe Burrow.
he had a lot of accolades, so it was sort of consensus. Trevor Lawrence the same way, consensus. So I think Caleb Williams comes at the consensus. Burrow, I thought was the real deal, but at this point, if he can't come back to prominence after this season, it's a big season, I think, for Joe Burrow. It's a big season
Mm.
for Joe Burrow. But Trevor Lawrence, I know people are saying that Trevor Lawrence is good. Man, I got to be honest with you, the Jaguars, I hope Gabe Davis changes things, getting
Yeah.
some weapons there in Jacksonville for Trevor. But again, another big year for Trevor as well. So I haven't seen in my lifetime where the all-world quarterbacks come first pick, first overall, right? I
Mhm.
even think the best quarterback right now in the NFL, Mahomes,
Right.
right? He wasn't the first overall. He was like a 16th or 14th, like it was in the teens, I think, of a pick in the first round. I
Mhm.
would be shocked, Nick, if any of these three quarterbacks are actually like even consistent starters. That's it. I don't even think they're going to be consistent starters. Look how quickly these teams move away from these young guys.
Yep. And I know that we said it before on this pod, but just say it again since it's timely. Um, you're never going to get a quarterback if they really, you know, hit. If you hit on that bet, you're never going to get a quarterback as cheap as you will in their rookie season. So another good reason to draft draft them early and draft them often. I feel like, yeah, Caleb Williams, is it kind of like a Madden curse kind of thing? Like if you're
Mm,
on the cover of Madden,
yeah.
you have a poor season or maybe you get injured following year. But if you're that number one pick taken at QB, are you just like cursed to have like a pretty mediocre season? You don't have to go back into very distant memory to say Bryce Young is, number one pick last year and then had a pretty season with Carolina. Of course, there's so many extenuating circumstances. The
Yeah.
Panthers were just, not good. Not a great offense around him. His best receiver was Adam Thielen.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah, aging, right? Aging Adam Thielen.
yeah,
As he's getting older. Man, here's my thing, because I'm gonna put a little bit of a curve on Will Kane's strategy, and I don't know if it's still his strategy anymore. Like I do think teams that need a quarterback should get a quarterback. However, I don't think it should be in the first round. I think
Mhm.
teams should start boycotting drafting quarterbacks in the first round. Let them sit in the second round, right? Then you get them for even cheaper. But I just think of our superstars, Nick. They're at least later. They're either late first rounds or later picks overall. Some of the greats, right? So there's so much. It's a football team, right? And there's so many important positions. I think the offensive line position is one that needs a little bit more resurgence as far as importance, right? Like it needs to be like really talked about of how the play of offensive linemen over the past couple of years has really gone down. And so the NFL really needs to develop that position more than anything. And I'd love to see it because then you
I
get more
agree.
run games, you get more gaps. you just get more just broader scopes of the game besides the passing.
We're definitely a big brained sports podcast, so we can talk about these analytics things. And I think we both find it super interesting, the trends of drafting. I think it's because it's not sexy, though I think more credit should be given to building a team from the inside out. Get the big offensive linemen, and then your quarterback has more time to throw. Your running back has better gaps to run into. Um, I don't know why. I can't into my memory. I'm trying to like drill back and to see when a offensive lineman was drafted #1 overall. Um, and I can't remember in the past 5 years when that's happened. It's been QB.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then on the flip side of that, I think maybe quarterback could potentially go the way of the running back when you're finding that these guys are busting a lot
Mm-hmm.
earlier than expected. Running back is a difficult position to hit on as well. So the teams are spending less and less draft capital. So like the era of Reggie Bush and Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley taken in the top 3 picks, maybe #1 overall. Like I don't think we're going to see that anymore. It's too risky of an investment. Um, so maybe the quarterback goes the same way, but what I find super interesting in the past few drafts, and being a fantasy football person, maybe I just think about this way more, is the wide receiver position and rookie wide receivers playing up a really, really high role on their teams and pretty much having like zero ramp up time and immediately, almost immediately being amazing.
Right.
So Chris Olave, inconsistent. It really depends on quarterback play, of course. Justin Jefferson took off as a rookie. Um, many, many more that I just can't remember right now, but fail to remember.
Yeah.
But I know that the wide receiver position, taking that early on, is has been helpful.
Yeah.
Those players are actually performing better than expected. That might be the one position I can think of.
This is really a great draft if your team doesn't need a quarterback, because
Mhm.
there's going to be a lot of talent that falls just for the sake of the ineptitude. Because at the end of the day, Nick, what I think is happening, it's not so much that the quarterbacks that they drafted suck. It goes back to our original point. The development plan for that quarterback
Yeah.
sucks, right? So you don't have enough ability. Even Tom Brady didn't start immediately, right? There was some ramp up time, and he never talks about it as, oh, I needed that time. Like it was his mentality. He had a really strong mentality of just, I could do better than this guy. And so there's definitely that internal beat, but not everyone has that. But you could have or you could have drafted a talented quarterback. But if you put them into the fire, if you put them into the pressure, if you don't show them the way a little bit and be patient, then I feel like it's so quickly to just burn out. And I think about it. I'm so proud of Baker Mayfield, for instance, to kind of find a new home in Tampa Bay. But I think the problem, and I hope it doesn't happen to Justin Fields. I really don't, because but the truth is that it takes a hard mentality to be like, I got drafted from a team, they gave me a chance, I failed. Now I'm in another team and I got to try to step up. I got to start from square one. It takes a particular strong person to be like, this is an opportunity, I got to take it. Um,
Yeah.
but it's the development plan. Even Mahomes, right? Alex Smith was ahead of Mahomes in the depth chart. I don't. This is a hot take here, Nick. I don't think you have Patrick Mahomes if he was drafted into another team that put him immediately into the fire. I don't think we're talking about Patrick Mahomes if that was the case.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just basic human experience, right? Says that it's always good to have mentorship,
Mhm.
to not have that pressure immediately. And I think that Mahomes would still be good. Like, I don't think this is the difference between like an amazing Patrick Mahomes that we have and like a crap Patrick Mahomes. I think he would still be good. It would just be more like good in the way that I don't know, maybe this is too on the nose in the way that like Josh Allen is good. He's
Mhm.
great, amazing player, amazing weapon, but obviously not a winner of big games. And as it turns out, he often meets Patrick Mahomes in those games. So maybe under the tutelage of Alex Smith, who didn't really win anything as a Chief, but
He was
maybe he was
consistent.
taught it's
They
a
went to the
consistent.
playoffs. There were winners in that
Mhm.
fashion of being pretty consistent in the avenue. So you're
Yeah,
right. I love that you brought up Josh Allen because the thing is Patrick Mahomes is in the conversation of one of the all-time greats. No one can tell me, as talented as Josh Allen is, he has all the talent in the world. He has strong mentality and everything.
hmm
Yeah, he's not in that conversation. He might be. He's a quarterback that we'll remember, right, in our lifetime because he played during our. But Patrick Mahomes is the type of player that everyone will remember whether they got to see him or not. It's
yeah,
like Joe Montana and all the other players, John Elway. They just their legacy is strong, and I don't think Patrick Mahomes would have the legacy if he didn't have the development plan. The also because it's a little bit of chemistry too. Um, between Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes. It's just beautiful to watch, and it's an important factor. Just like chemistry between Belichick and Tom Brady was an important factor in their success. So
absolutely.
I don't know,
Absolutely.
man. I feel like the best quarterback in this draft, if I had a guess, might be Bo Nix. And
Yeah.
if they haven't projected it being drafted at 19th by the LA Rams with the 19th,
hmm
if Bo Nix is a 19th pick and LA Rams able to pick him up to sort of be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford, watch out, folks. I think that's the sneaky pick. I think you look for lower level quarterbacks, and that's where you if you could, that's where you're going to find value. That's where you're really going to try to find value.
And Bo Nix has been in the college football circuit for probably 20 years now. Not really 20 years, but definitely a long time. Is with the COVID rules, you got an extra year of eligibility. He was LSU and then Oregon. So yeah, I like that. I like that pick for potential sleeper quarterback who can take over in a big way. Hey, just a fun little competition. Remember how I said that I couldn't remember the last time an offensive lineman was taken as the number one overall pick? It
Mhm.
has happened. Do you want to guess the year? I'll give you the year within one. Then you can guess the year within 1 or 2 years, either side. Let me know if you want a hint.
Um, I don't know why I'm thinking because one of the ones in my memory was I think it was the Jacksonville Jaguars. Am I am
It
I
was not the Jaguars.
It was not the Jaguars. Was in the 2000s?
It was uh, in the 2010s. Hopefully, that's not too big of a hint.
I think it was 2012.
You got a 1 out of 10 guess. Well, you got it within one. It was 2013. Eric Fisher taken number one overall by the Chiefs.
The Chiefs. Is he still playing? No, probably not.
Let's see. Yeah, that's a great question. He's I don't know. It's not telling me what team he's on, actively speaking. Miami. He's on Miami. This is interesting. You got to go back a long time. That's a lot of drafts. That's a lot of players taken since there's been an offensive lineman taken number one overall.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive linemen have been taken number one overall, especially edge rushers. 2022, Trayvon Walker, defensive end. Maybe that's who you're thinking of. It's the Jaguars drafted him
Yeah.
overall.
Well, because that's also become such a more prominent position. Like we got to talk about like hopefully there's some defense, and that's another thing. If you need defense and you don't need a quarterback, again, this is your draft. Like this is going to be good. Like there's talent out there in bunches on the defensive end because of the vast need of so many teams in quarterback and even just the offensive positions as a whole. I think defensive, those edge players, those defensive tackles, man, it's so great. Like when you have a dominant defensive tackle, it's next up. I mean, I kind of scoffed at Aiden Hutchinson, Detroit Lions, but they've been drafting good. A lot of people criticize them, but they've been drafting solid picks. And man, for them to, I'm so proud of that team. So proud of Detroit Lions. They're great. They're great. Great team.
And they
Great.
get to host the draft tonight, so hopefully they
Detroit
break down the house. That's
Mom
awesome.
Spaghetti, sponsored by Eminem's Mom Spaghetti.
Just to correct ourselves a little bit here, as I'm looking at the 2017 draft, I mentioned earlier Christian McCaffrey was a top 3 pick at running back. He wasn't. He was number 8 that year, and Patrick Mahomes was number 10 overall in 2017. So not higher than that, though. He definitely plays like he's got that chip on his shoulder of being overlooked. Well, he was really truly because the Bears drafted Mitchell Trubisky over him in that draft. So
Horrible, horrible picks. And I will say, I still don't understand Daniel Jones.
oh, the
I,
controversial Daniel Jones pick. I remember watching that. I think that draft was 2021.
bro, and they paid him,
Oh,
and they
well,
paid him.
they paid him Saquon Barkley's money. You know what I mean? Like Saquon Barkley's obviously that dude. However, uh, there's just so much to unpack there. Why? Why do you think that they paid Daniel Jones?
I mean, there's so many reasons. Like and then one reason is more like just my speculation of that ownership group. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like they're looking for particular types of people, and they of course want talent, but because they're looking for a particular type of people, and and for what it's worth, owners do see quarterbacks as the face of their franchise.
Yeah.
I think they looked way too heavy on personality that fits with them and got enamored by a personality that wasn't, it's not like a grind personality. I'm not talking about grit or something like that, but like oh, I could hang out with this guy. This guy could come to us to a country club, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that type of person that I think they got enamored with him. But man, I mean, I knew that was a bad pick from the get. Of course, a solid quarterback's gonna freaking have a good season. I'm not saying he was a scrub, but he's not a first round pick either. Like that would have seemed like a good value if you got Daniel Jones in the second, third round and you took a
Mm-hmm.
chance. But to do a
Right.
first round pick when there are other quarterbacks available, that was
Right.
always such a head scratcher. And it was the same thing with Mitchell Trubisky. I feel like you get caught up in intangibles that don't really matter,
Yeah.
in the game of football. And the truth is, here's the thing. You look at Mitch Trubisky, and one question that ownership didn't answer was, can they come in a room and become leaders of the football team? It is clear as day when you look at people like Daniel Jones, Mitch Trubisky, that they do not command respect in the locker room. And so you have to recognize, you have to devalue play a quarterback that's like that. And let's look. I mean, if there's one that I have a question on, yeah, I don't know.
This
Maybe
year,
I put
this
Drake
year's,
May
yeah.
in that category. Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, we were talking about this year's crop of QBs, as people like to say. I don't know why I said that. It just feels bad to say crop of people, crop of
Talent.
talent.
Talent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you want to place a solid bet on a QB in the first 9, 10 overall, best available,
Yeah.
why not take the guy who's won the national championship? You see what I mean? Like, I know that winning on
You're right.
college stage
Yeah.
doesn't always translate, but why not take a guy who's been at the biggest of those stages? So JJ McCarthy's obviously who I'm talking about here.
Yeah, he's an interesting pick. A lot of people have been talking smack because he's going to be drafted high. There's no doubt, right? And the question is, who's going to get him? He's been,
Hmm.
and I saw some comments this morning of him being very enamored with the New York Giants. So,
Yeah.
which has been really interesting because I don't know if the Giants are like just playing games or they're really going to draft um, JJ. So it'll be interesting to see. I think either JJ is going to end up with the Vikings or New York, but I wouldn't hesitate that the Patriots jump up in there either. If they're maybe looking at JJ McCarthy in May, they might just value what you just said. They're like, this guy's won the chip. We won the chips. We want to get back to winning chips. I think JJ McCarthy probably shows the most leadership out of the group. Uh,
Yep.
Probably put Caleb Williams second, and then Bo Nix third as the top three leaders in the quarterback category. I think the others could stand um, to 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 really learn more and grow in that avenue. It's understated
Mm.
the importance of kind of commanding a room.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm with you there. That would be absolutely bonkers if, and New England does this. They seem over the past little bit to draft so poorly. Not the, sorry for any Patriots fans. I feel like you would agree with me though that their drafting has been a little bit suspect. Maybe it's different now that Bill Belichick has moved on, but
I hope so. I hope so. And that's one thing that Bill Belichick's legacy, you just got to own it, is he
mhm.
was a shitty drafter. Like, and no one questioned him at the time because everyone was like, what the heck with some of his picks? Like he just pick off the wall players that weren't even on the list of predictions.
Yeah.
But you didn't question because it's like, oh well, it's Bill Belichick, the greatest coach who's ever coached in the NFL. So there's got to be some method there to the madness. But the reality is that the receipts are in on a lot of his picks, and they are not good picks.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. I agree. So could we see them do something wild? Take I well, it's not so wild taking JJ McCarthy over Jaden Daniels or Drake May. That's not really that wild. So I'll throw that idea away as being like really overstepping to
Yeah.
what we were going to be like absolutely better because I think of Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and JJ McCarthy like uh, go for your guy, like go for who you think is going to be best. You're really not going to like be, I don't think at the end of the day, super, super regretful if you overpass Drake May. Um, but I
Hmm.
think you would be very, very regretful if you're the Washington Commanders, whose pick I think is just so fascinating, right? Because they need quarterback as they dealt Sam Howell to, I think, the Seahawks, but whatever, he's irrelevant now. And I feel like they need to take Marvin Harrison Jr. I feel like they'll regret not taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Do you do you feel like that same amount of hype with a guy? He's obviously got pro pedigree, played at Ohio State, which is absolutely wide receiver university these days. So I don't know. I was curious what your thoughts were on that Washington number 2 pick.
Yeah, and this is why I'm saying like I don't think Washington veers off from the QB path.
Mm,
And I think they're overvaluing all these players. I think the whole media is overvaluing a lot of these players. Again, I think Bo Nix might end up having the, let me eat my words, but I think he's going to have the most longevity career-wise in the NFL because he's not going to have that same sort of pressure. Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably the best player that one could pick in this draft, period. Like NFL
mhm.
player, period. He has size, he has height, uh, he can just make big plays, and he's electrifying. And I think this idea, because this is what you just mentioned it with Saquon being that guy. This idea that the face of your franchise has to be a quarterback is outdated. I don't think it has to be. Dude, I don't think it matters. Like, and I see it down here. Tyreek Hill, side all the baby mama drama. He's going through. Besides that, you put that Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, became instantly this face of the franchise for Miami. Yeah, we had Tua, but there is no doubt when you're living in South Florida, that electricity that comes from Tyreek Hill's play, you can absolutely get a leader. And he's changed, right? Like the Dolphins are suddenly a different team altogether because of Tyreek Hill. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. Like, chill, Washington. You don't need to. I agree with you, Nick. Take the pick, take the best player in this draft, take this electrifying wide receiver who can absolutely be the face of your franchise, and even like just a suitable quarterback will still be able to throw dimes to him because he's that talented.
And you have Terry McLaurin opposite, and also um, Penn State wide receiver who I drafted in fantasy football last year, Jahan Dotson.
Dotson. That's
An
that's
amazing wide receiver room. Could you imagine?
that would be an amazing wide receiver. I keep mispronouncing and calling him McLaren,
That's like a
like the car.
that's
So
a fantasy football team name that I think I've used before. McLaurin F1.
uh,
Because there's always guys that you draft, and Terry McLaurin has been sadly always he's not a great fantasy football wide receiver. Just doesn't have the volume to perform super well in fantasy football. And Marvin Harrison Jr. opposite him, it's kind of like the QB thing, you know? You can have some tutelage from Terry McLaurin on how to be a pro. Unfortunately, the organization it's improving because they've got new ownership, but it's not a fantastic organization. Doesn't have a I don't even know who their head coach is now.
and
It's not around there anymore.
and that's the thing, right? So like if they draft Daniels, right? Bro, that him alone is not going to put butts in seats. That I don't think. Maybe I'm not a Washington Commanders fan, but like I don't think that puts butts in seats for you to like forego the opportunity to get a transformational player.
Mm-hmm.
Like I agree with you. I don't think it's worth the risk. Like you're not getting more butts in seats with JT Daniels or JD. Was it JT?
Jaden,
Jaden.
maybe with my JD.
Jaden. Yeah, yeah. Jaden Daniels. So why not?
Yeah. The coach of the Commanders is Dan Quinn. Sorry, folks, I forgot that. I mean, huge defensive mind, you know? So does that bear into play? And do you think it should? Like if you just are a coach who makes their bread and butter from one side of the ball, do you then sell out and draft solely on that? I think maybe you should actually. This would be a little controversial because you know that best. Like obviously Bill Belichick thought he knew wide receivers best, so he just kept drafting them, but he should have. Um, maybe if you're the defensive mind, such as Dan Quinn, you draft defense and don't try to, of course, it's not always his pick, but don't try to veer from what you know.
I love that. Yeah. Dallas Turner might be a good pick then.
Maybe that might be a little bit reaching too much. You could always use offensive offensive line, offensive line play. So to reach for anything other than QB or Marvin Harrison, so and those number three picks to go, I don't know,
He wants Marvin
go
Harrison.
outside of those, that'd be tough.
Marvin Harrison. Right now, Marvin Harrison, right? Where is he predicted to go? Where are you, Marvin? Where are you going, Marvin? Where are you going, Marvin? You're going somewhere. Where are you going? Arizona Cardinals.
Hmm.
Yeah, that'd be a nice
Just
pick
because
for
of team need. Yeah,
Kyler Murray.
that would be super sweet. That wouldn't be a bad landing spot for him.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Not at all. Not at all. Real good. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this first round. I think there's going to be a lot of talent. I think there will be some surprises. What do you think is going to be a big surprise?
Tough to
You don't
say.
have anything
There's always,
specific. It's hard.
I think some sort of trade of an actual active player takes place tonight. I don't recall it happening last year, like a draft day, like world changing trade. What I'm thinking about in my memory was the AJ Brown to the Eagles trade on draft night. And I want to say that was 2022. And so then the now number one wide receiver lists, Titans take Treylon Burks at number 18 overall. So I wonder if something like that happens tonight. I know like rumblings of Brandon Ayuk, maybe not. And as far as I can see, the most recent news updates is that he's not signed with the 49ers. So maybe there is something like that about to play out tonight, a trade of an active player.
All right, I love that. I love that. I think that's a good.
What's your surprise of the night? Caleb Williams doesn't get taken number one overall.
No, I think he will. I think that's just going to be predictable. Um, my prediction is that the Giants will continue to whiff, which isn't really a surprise. They'll continue to whiff. But I think that the Minnesota Vikings come out of this round one looking like a playoff contender team.
Mm,
I think they make the picks that they have because they have multiple.
right.
And I think they solidify themselves immediately after one draft. So I think that's my surprise. Like, okay, Minnesota Vikings real this year. They're going to be real this year. Probably, if they get JJ McCarthy, right, because he drops, and there's no surprises there, and they're able to shore up offensive line, get a offensive weapon, what have you, even just get a edge player, right, a defensive player.
Sure.
Then they're suddenly next level. So I think the big surprise is Minnesota Vikings are in the best position in this draft. That's my sort of surprise
I
prediction.
love it. I'll be looking out for that. That that would be sweet because that's a team that's like going to be built around Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
That's not the QB face. At least it shouldn't be. They shouldn't do like the New York Giants did and say they draft JJ McCarthy has one good year. They shouldn't like get rid of or let Justin Jefferson leave. Let the star, let the face of your team be somebody other than this quarterback. Maybe that's our big lesson today. If you're listening, uh, Q or NFL ownership, general managers.
Yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
we're the fans, and we don't need to have somebody like Daniel Jones just to be the face of the franchise, just because he's a quarterback.
mhm. Yeah. He wasn't a good one. I feel like he wasn't New York. There's nothing about him that's
No,
New York. And then he has Saquon, who felt like a New Yorker, right? Like just his
he's a
style.
New Yorker. Yeah,
And he's from New York for real, right? He's
for
also,
real. Yeah, he's
yeah,
for
yeah.
real from New York. I think the Bronx, maybe. If
So
I'm
it's like, yo, like that is your face of your franchise. People can get behind. And this is where I think the NBA does it so much better, right? It's like embrace the characters on your team. Imagine if the NBA approached that with point guards, right? The face of the franchise was always the point guard. The person who always had to have the ball was the point guard. Yes, by nature of the game, that should be how it's played. But we have seen an evolution of it where that doesn't matter anymore. You'll have Giannis go down the court. And what the heck is Giannis? What the heck? He's a small forward. He could be a center. He could be a power forward. Like, what the heck is Giannis? What the heck is Embiid?
yeah.
You have players that can play all positions, and they're the face of the franchise. Why? Because they have the talent. So it doesn't matter what position they play. It's just when you have that transformational talent, highlight that shit, man. Highlight it.
And then you get yourself to use the NBA analogy when you have Giannis taking the ball up the court, when you have LeBron take the ball up the court, which he's noted to do because he's just so fast and so much bigger, you have mismatches.
Mhm.
So gotta not be afraid to think outside the box. And sometimes, you could say, well, we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Other
Mhm.
times, you're just letting a guy develop in a sort of way. Maybe it's a little bit unconventional, but it's like that Giannis factor. Um, However, you also got to be a little bit careful with the injuries, though. I feel like in the NBA, like these not the finals, but these playoffs are being a little bit like
Mm,
uh, they're made more interesting by the injuries that are taking place. Some might argue. For me, I kind of just want to see strength on strength because
yeah.
it's such a star-driven league, and you got Embiid breaking himself. Giannis, I don't think Giannis is fully back as of the recording of this. So many others, Jimmy Butler, of course. So I just want to see maybe we're like asking these players to exert physically too much. The 7 foot Giannis taking the ball up the court, being point guard is maybe that's not how we got hurt, obviously. Not saying that, but it's maybe there is a reason for positionality in the game.
Oh, so you're arguing against me. All right. Okay, Nick.
Yeah,
Okay.
I honestly think the injury factor. You know, the guy who's like doing too much. Like he doesn't need to be doing the handling of the ball and being your number one rebounder and being your number one assist maker. That's Giannis. Like he's leading
Yeah.
or maybe close to leading the team in all of those different
Yeah.
big statistical categories. Like how does that doesn't lead to balance on your roster, but
Yeah, they need to find a way to sort of build around him a little bit better, you know.
Mhm.
But they got Dame.
Let Dame shoot. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't feel like they've really
Yeah, there's a
allowed.
lot of surprises here. You got a lot of 2-0 leads, but you got some 1-1s. You're mentioning the 1-1 here, the Bucks and Pacers. But I still think the Bucks squeak that out. It's hard to win to sweep. And it'd be crazy, right? Looking at it now, if everyone was sweeping everyone else, it's going to be some tough matchups. People are fighting for their existence here. Um,
Mm.
is there a team that's either down or tied in the underdog that you think is actually going to end up winning the series in the NBA playoffs?
Uh, ultimately, my brain went to Miami. They
Hmm.
just drew even in the series with Boston last night, and the series is going to Miami. Anytime that road team can steal that first or second game, you gotta their probability of winning the series goes way up. However, I think they're just so undermanned. I love their coach. Eric Spoelstra is amazing.
He's the greatest coach in the NBA. That's my hot
He is
take.
the best coach in the NBA. Like, I don't even think I can't even name another coach in the NBA. Maybe Steve Kerr. But
Yeah.
you think about the amount of talent that
Yeah, yeah. It's not even close.
yeah.
It's not even close. You put Eric Spoelstra on the Golden State Warriors, it wouldn't even be close. Like Steve Kerr to me, overrated, right? He has sensational players. He didn't necessarily start with he didn't, draft um uh
Stephen Curry here.
yeah, Stephon
Klay
Curry.
Thompson,
He
yeah.
did, yeah, he just got superstars around the team. He's just managing talent. Eric Spoelstra, I mean, he is to me the greatest coach in the NBA, and he's in my book one of the all-time greats. Like there's no
Yeah.
because he can manage the personalities. He did it with the big three.
Hmm.
But but at the same time, this dude, I mean, you realize there's no superstar on not even one. It's just a team. It's exactly what you said
Right.
about Giannis. Is like, why is Giannis statistically leading in all these categories? You have to have more balance. Eric Spoelstra has built a balanced team.
He has. And I think that just as his career has gone, the big three left, Dwayne Wade retired, um, that he got the chance to show that coaching prowess.
Mm-hmm.
So that the team is not just based around star players.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's fair to say Steve Kerr is not as good because he's got all this talent around him because he's never. I mean, he's shown some years though whenever both Curry and Klay Thompson have been injured, and I can't remember if those years went well. I don't think that they did. I think they were like high lottery picks in those seasons. So, but that's
Bro,
different. Like you're banking on a team to have certain individuals and you don't have it. That's not the same as Eric Spoelstra getting the chance to like build a roster.
I mean, Nick, they're not in the playoffs now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're not in the
Very
playoffs now.
valid point.
They're not in the playoffs now. You know, like And it's so funny because I think every person who watches saw the Heat squeeze out game 2, and they're like, oh shit, there goes the Celtics. And honestly, if Boston, because Boston to me, their team has a weak mentality. It's the same thing with the 76ers, right? And it's funny because didn't the Celtics have Jimmy Butler too at some point, or no? It was just the Sixers. Because the
Sixers did. I can't think if the Celtics did or not. I don't think so.
Sixers did. Teams Jimmy Butler played.
Bulls, I want to say.
Yeah, so it was the Bulls. It was the other team, Chicago Bulls.
While you look that up, I wanted to jump in on that Boston Celtics point. You know, every single person in that Celtics locker room is thinking what you just said there. Oh shit, it's happening again. Because
Yeah,
some teams have a bogey team. I know this is a term used a lot. I'm like talking about soccer.
yeah.
Uh, Bogey team. It's like the team that you have self-fulfilling prophecy against. Like you think we always lose against them, and then sure enough, they beat you in the series, Eastern Conference Finals last year, namely the Heat. They maybe you're thinking that they shouldn't let that get into their heads though, because they're so much more talented than
They're
the
so
Heat.
much more talented, and the Heat are diminished. They don't have Jimmy Butler, and I don't think they'll have him back for this series. Like so.
Oh no way, there's no way.
So it's huge underdog situation for the Heat. But the fact that we're even talking about them being the most likely to do the number one seed, like doing the number one seeded Celtics, is crazy. But here's my thing: either way, they defeated the Celtics. I don't think the Celtics, even if they win this series, I think the energy, the mental energy they'll have to do to win this series hinders them for the next 2 series. So if they don't, maybe they make it. They'll make it out of this round. Maybe they make it out of the next round. But when it comes to that conference finals, I think their energy just won't be the same. Um, and yeah, there's just a mental toughness that's so interesting. Who's your pick to win it, the NBA championship this year? Or give me the final. Who's the finals? Who's playing
Okay,
in the finals?
okay. I'm thinking about teams just I guess the NBA, it doesn't so much matter if a team gets hot at the right time. Unlike in hockey, like you need to have a goaltender really perform their best in the playoffs in order to advance. So I'm just using this to hedge a little bit and say like I'm not going to be very good at picking this
Give me two
because
teams, Nick. Give me two teams. Give me two teams.
let's go with the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. Those are my two teams. And I wanted to say a word on the Celtics as if I just like talk shit about them. Maybe they'll take this adversity against the Heat and really shore up the perimeter defense and the the things that are really hurting them right now. Because there's always that opportunity, right, to learn from what's going on that's going bad in game two. They may not lose another game for the rest of the playoffs. For all we know, there's that possibility. So I'm gonna go with the Celtics and Nuggets.
Just to update, is Giannis coming back this series?
Giannis should be back. If he's not back, I mean, I haven't been watching that series, so I should look that up. But Giannis is not in a sort of season-ending injury kind of mold, unlike Jimmy Butler, who wouldn't be back until the NBA Finals, should they make it that far.
Oh, that's how long Jimmy Butler will
Yeah,
take.
yeah. He's a game time decision right now, listed on ESPN is Giannis. So
So I think the Bucks make it out of the East, so they'll be in the championship. And I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Clippers.
wow, that
Yeah,
would be such an interesting finals. Those would be like obviously two great teams, but it's not really the teams that people want to see, if I'm honest.
I think an exciting one would be the New York Knickerbockers, right? New York is just,
Hmm.
bro, it's the media market. It'd be huge.
Yeah.
They haven't made the finals in God knows how long. It'd be huge. So it'd be the New York Knickerbockers, and just realistic here, realistic, and then the Phoenix Suns. I think
Oh, the Suns.
people would get really, even though they're not gonna, they're gonna actually. I should pick I should pick the Thunder. No one cares about the Thunder. Maybe the Mavericks.
Okay. I think the West is so hard. The West is so hard. I almost said the Thunder, honestly, because I think they are so good. Gilgeous Alexander, so good.
Let's wrap it up here, Nick. We're gonna do NHL, the Chell. We're gonna do the same exercise there. Pick
Flipping
two.
around to the Chell. Hold on, let me.
We're not even gonna talk about the matchups here. Even though my Florida Panthers are, man, they got a tough matchup against the Lightning. That's a tough first round matchup because the Lightning are always electric. But they're up
I
2-0.
knew what you did there. All right. Now that I finally like reoriented myself with what the hell's going on in the NHL.
The Chell.
Well,
The Chell.
let's go with the Vancouver Canucks
Oh,
and the Carolina Hurricanes. That is my
you just couldn't do it,
pick.
huh?
Put it on the board.
You picked the number one team on the West. You couldn't pick the number one team on the East, huh? You just couldn't do Florida.
Mm, Florida, the number one overall team in the East,
Yeah.
not the Rangers.
Oh, I guess it's there. There's multiple ones, number ones. I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, Florida won the Atlantic. They had uh 110 points. Well, either way, the hockey does their playoffs interesting, where they actually like care about the division, make the divisions play each other.
It's good. It's good. I actually think the Golden Knights, Las
Like
Vegas
that.
Golden Knights, I feel like once they make the playoffs, they just turn into a different team. And yeah, the
Mhm.
Florida Panthers back into Stanley Cup. And this could be the year. I would pick Florida Panthers. I am a fan, so I'm completely biased. But I'm all in on the Los Gatos, Vamos Gatos. Um, I think they're gonna go all the way, which is so crazy. I would love it. What a fu to the whole hockey universe, huh? Just like
Mhm.
a place that never snows, place that really no one on the Florida Panthers is from Florida because it can't. It's literally impossible for them to draft a player from Florida that plays hockey. It
Mhm.
it would be a glory. But you know what? They're happy. You know why they're happy, Nick? No income tax, no state income tax.
I
So,
thought you were gonna say golf carts.
oh my God. Here it comes. Maybe I need to get a golf cart. Saw them at Lowe's.
They sell golf carts at Lowe's.
Yeah. They don't at your Lowe's?
Oh, no, there's no, we don't have a golf cart culture here. That would be amazing if they did, and maybe they should. Maybe they just like aren't marketing it. I would be tempted.
And it's funny,
Like,
they're less golf carts, like they got aggressive wheels. So like they could go
yeah, I
like
gotta go off road with
yeah,
the model.
yeah. And then they have like speakers and stuff. So it's really, I think, less for the golf part of it as opposed to just another vehicle you can mess around with. So, hey, all right. Final thing here, Nick. What are you cooking for dinner? What are you making? Where are you going? Or what are you making?
Ooh, that's a great question. I wish I knew the answer to. That's the eternal question, right? I feel like I'm gonna go out and after this recording, ask my fiance, what do you want to eat? She's gonna say, I don't know. And uh we'll find out then and there what we're gonna have. It's likely gonna be some sort of salad, hot pasta combination, something like that, something easy. We're both traveling soon, so we don't got groceries. What about you?
Nice, nice. I was gonna say you should just make the executive decision. I know my wife likes that every time I just make the decision on.
Yeah, that mean ultimately, yeah, you're right.
So we're gonna work. We're actually gonna talk about be specific. Let's see what you have in your cupboard. Um, right now, well, for me, I'm gonna make some. How do you pronounce the New Orleans sausages? The andouille. What is it? The
Andouille.
andouille, 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 andouille. Sausages with some red beans and rice.
That sounds so good.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. I should have taken a picture of it for you because you're always wondering what the chef is making. I made like breakfast quesadillas this morning with some breakfast sausage and some eggs. And,
Mm.
I haven't eaten anything all day since then. You're making me hungry.
Yeah, well, no, it's important. I'm about to eat. I'm an early bird. We're very American podcast. I'm like 5 p.m. easy, which by the way, I think was something that really became popular in during the pandemic. I remember reading an
Mhm.
article even from the New Yorker where it's like the trend. People are starting to fill restaurants at 5 p.m. It used to be that the hardest reservation was like 8 p.m. to get, right? And now everyone, a lot of people, because they're working from home, they're just getting hungrier. Maybe they miss lunch. They're starting to want to eat dinner at an earlier time, which is better for our digestive system because we're not, the most active society in the world. So,
Mhm.
um, so yeah,
It's the
interesting.
Seinfeld bit where he's with his parents and they're trying to get the early bird special, and he's like, "I will buy dinner. I'm just not eating steak at 4:30 in the afternoon."
I absolutely would. I
But I
absolutely.
would too. That's my yeah, brunch. There's a reason why brunch is also like
Yeah,
major thing, right? I want to eat my biggest meal at the point of the day where I have like the greatest chance of like
digesting it.
digesting that, right?
It's important. It's important. So, okay, let's talk. What do you have in the cup, or what type of pasta are you making? What sort of
All
pasta?
right, so yeah, as I thought about it, it's definitely coming together. It's going to be some tortellini. I bought like tortellini pasta. Then we have arugula, so a little side salad, arugula situation, and the sauce we have marinara. So um, that'll be that. Keep it
What
simple.
type of do you have, like, just do you use the San Marzano tomatoes and then make your marinara, or do you
Mhm.
use the
Yeah,
bottle?
yeah. I love doing this. So you get the San Marzano, the whole San Marzano tomatoes. People do this, okay? And then take it in your hand. Feels so nice and cool. And squish it. Squish it into your pasta sauce that you're ultimately going to make. It's going to have great texture. You're not going to have like your jarred sauces have like a lot of added sugar, salt, preservatives, so some such, just like San Marzano's, this juicy tomato, oregano, salt, pepper, olive oil. Let that simmer. When you're done,
Do you
and you cut it
squeeze
off.
the tomatoes out of the can, or are you actually buying like fresh tomatoes?
Out of the can. Yeah. San Marzano's.
Squeeze them out? Because I cooked it and I sort of chopped it. I didn't use my hands. I sort of chopped it in the pan. Still worked out. Like
Yeah,
it's
this will be good. I think it's the squeezing part that it's rustic. Not everything is going to be uniform. It's going to be like very rustic.
yeah. Yeah, San Marzano. If you're not on that, like, no one should be buying the can pasta sauce. Like, it's just as easy to open up the can of San Marzano and then squeeze it out and then season your sauce to your liking with your flavors, with your type of accompaniment. Then
Hmm.
it's and then again, right? I think it's the control. You control the fat, the preservatives, and things that are inside of it much better. And I mean, we could hardly call it from scratch, right? It's not like we're boiling tomatoes and smash. Like, it's still just as easy from the can, but it's so much better. Like, the flavor is good. What about on the arugulas? Are you doing balsamic?
Yeah, there's a dressing. I like using Dijon mustard, emulsify, get a little thick.
Mm.
We pretty much make the same salad every single night.
All right.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah. Dijon mustard is the secret though to thick, very flavorful salad dressings.
Dijon mustard. There you go. There you have it, folks. Yeah, we got in the culinary today. We got in the culinary. I love it.
Made it
Well,
happen. Made it work.
well, we got it. We got to eat soon. We got to start cooking because we got to get ready for the draft. So with that, I bid you adieu, Nick.
Yeah, thank you folks. Enjoy the draft, enjoy the playoffs. Great sports time of the year. Enjoy.